Incumbent Democrat Raphael Warnock won the heated Georgia Senate runoff on Tuesday, beating Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Warnock's victory means that Democrats will have a super slim majority in the Senate when the 118th Congress convenes in early January. And joining us now to discuss all of this is former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins. Doug, great to see you. You and I were literally, I remember we were talking as the results were coming in. What do you think went wrong in Georgia for Herschel Walker?
Rita, sometimes you can look at it and you think about different things. I just really think, like we talked about on election night, Walker never could connect his message to people who were undecided to say that he could be a United States Senator. And that was just simply the problem. His team, they did all that they could, but with the negative ad spent on him, with everything else, he just never could get that crossover vote to say, yes, I think I want Herschel Walker as a senator because of everything that they had seen so far.
Do you believe, as you're talking about the negative ads, because they threw everything at him? I mean, it was like, okay, here's another woman, here's another this, here's another that. Clearly also, though, Warnock had issues with his ex. There was a lot of questions there, too. But do you think it stuck more to Herschel versus to Raphael Warnock?
Remember, though, I agree with you. It should have been. The press never picked up Raphael Warnock stuff. I mean, that's the big issue. Everything from Herschel was amplified by free media in the mainstream media. However, Warnock's also, you have to remember, all that stuff about Warnock came out 2 years ago, too. So, I mean, it was older stuff that people had and that reporters just didn't pay any attention to because it had already been in the media 2 years ago, although that was a very different dynamic of an election in 2020 with that runoff and other things. But some of that had already been, you know, I guess you'd say litigated in the media, and the media just chose to ignore it.
Do you believe that there are lessons learned? You said some powerful things, Doug, in terms of things that the GOP has to learn for elections going forward. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, from top down, RNC to every state party to every county party, they got to get right now. They have to start working and building our list, making sure that we have our demographics. We know who's in our neighborhoods. We know our communities. We recruit volunteers to keep in contact with these people all throughout the year. Number two, we got to raise money. We got to do small dollar donations. And there's a big issue there that we could talk about. We've made some progress, but we're still nowhere close. Herschel Walker got outraised $30 million in the same 14-day period. That shows you how different it is. And then the other thing is we've got the RNC and all of our agencies in the Republican Party have to understand that electing Republicans is their job. And too many times we get sidetracked on who's got the better policy, who's got this. But at the end of the day, after our primaries, the party has to be focused on getting people turned out to vote and making that happen. And then we've also got to make sure that candidates also are effectively communicating the message that they have and making sure that they're making that message match where they're running. And I think those are just areas that we've got to have, built in, and candidates have to be willing to communicate. If they're not willing to communicate, no longer are you able just to be run a TV campaign, I don't think, especially with some of our Republican candidates.
And you also believe play by the rules that are on the books, too, in terms of early votings, right?
Yeah, that was another issue, too. I mean, look, folks, Republicans, you got to get out and vote. I mean, if it's allowed early voting in your state, early vote. If you need to vote by mail, vote by mail.
You can't rely on election day, in other words.
But if you need to vote on election day, fine. But don't leave yourself one outlet and then all of a sudden have a problem if it's just on election day. And then the other part is if you elect Republicans in your state legislature, you have a problem with security or election security in your state, then make sure that they pass those rules so that everybody feels that the elections process is secure. We've seen Georgia make great improvements in that. We've seen Florida do very well in that. We've seen other states. Look, it happens. We just got to quit letting the Democrats use every tool available when we sit back and try not to be. And also, whether it comes to, helping in areas wherever the rules allow, the Republicans have got to work those rules. If not, we're laying votes on the table, and we really can't complain about it at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And also when we see how many votes are coming in early voting, it's so hard for any Republican candidate to catch up when there's such an advantage coming. We saw it in the Fetterman race, how much was ahead before even voting day, and even before the first debate there. That was a whole other issue. Congressman Doug Collins, always love having you on, and your really great perspective. Thank you, Doug, so much.
Rita, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You too. Have a great weekend. And
no crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the
truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They
let me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
for real people.